Yes, he knows Ted Binion is dead, but he calls himself a psychic. And that was just the beginning.
It was a circus, and in a town known...
So much controversy within this Ted Binion trial.
Outside the courtroom where Sandra Murphy and Rick Tabish were being tried for murder, a dozen psychics got together at an occult bookstore.
We thought we'd just give it a shot and see if we could contact Mr. Binion and see if he can give us any information.
And this was orchestrated by the defense, a publicist who was working for the defense.
For Jeff Gehrman, the investigative reporter for the Las Vegas Sun, who's watched the case unfold for nearly 2 years, the detour to the paranormal was, well, business as usual in his hometown. Nobody, he says, was surprised when the psychics failed to find Ted Binion at home.
Conclusion was, I think, by an 8-3 vote that Murphy and Tabish killed Binion but would be acquitted. And that's kind of exactly the way the defense was hoping things would turn out.
Trial Consultants of Nevada would like to know your thoughts about the Binion trial. If you ever wanted to serve on a jury, this is your chance.
Also outside the courtroom, this commercial was being broadcast on local TV.
Let us know your opinion. Call now.
Asking people to phone in and vote whether Murphy and Tabish were guilty or innocent. It was paid for by the defense, and at least 600 people did call in before the judge heard about it and stopped it.
That girl was innocent. She was innocent.
In fact, public opinion was so whipped up, there was almost no one in Las Vegas who didn't have an opinion on the Binion case, as we observed outside the courthouse.
They were both innocent, both of them.
It was a circus. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, it was basically, it was an attempt to I think, influence the jury outside the courthouse, outside the control of the judge.
Back inside the Clark County Courthouse, prosecutors said Rick Tabish had actually asked for help in killing Ted Binion. This man was introduced as a childhood friend of Tabish's, a man named Kurt Gratzer.
Rick had me go over scenarios with him in which I'd be shooting this man in the head with one of his handguns, one of his loaded handguns.
Defense attorney Louis Palazzo argued the friend's story was too bizarre to be believed.
And Mr. Tabish was going to pay you $100,000 and upwards to $3 million to kill this person because this person would not pay Mr. Tabish $13,000. Is that your testimony for the jury?
Partly, yes.
As for Sandra Murphy, prosecutors found not one, but two witnesses who said she had predicted Ted Binion's death of an overdose just a week before he died. This was one, a manicurist, Dina Perry.
Did she tell you when he was going to die of a drug overdose?
Within 3 weeks.
Did she tell you what type of drug overdose that he was going to experience within 3 weeks?
Heroin.
Those are not your words. Those are Sandra Murphy's words?
Those are her words.
Again, the defense scoffed.
We had a manicurist who never met my client before, sits with her for a period of 4 hours. And in the first hour, my client admits to homicide, theft, robbery, drugs. Does a complete confession all in 1 hour.
And prosecutors also brought in one of the nation's most visible pathologists, Dr. Michael Baden of New York, to say that Murphy and Tabish suffocated Ted Binion when they found he was not dying quickly enough of his overdose. Baden testified he found marks on Binion's lip that could have only come in one manner.
The upper lip and the left side of the lip rubbed against something that was tightly held against the mouth. My opinion is he died of asphyxia by suffocation.
But the defense pointed out that none of that speculation was in the original autopsy conducted by the county coroner.
I mean, never have I seen a homicide case operate in this fashion when you have coroner's findings changed after 6 months.
Neither Rick Tabish nor Sandra Murphy took the stand in their own defense, but Murphy was often crying in court, especially when autopsy photos of Ted Binion were shown. And she broke down completely when prosecutors played a barely understandable audio tape of a police interview with her hours after Binion's death. Sandra Murphy came to Las Vegas, a high school dropout, who the defense says quickly became caught up in a world of very high rollers, none of whom would now give her the time of day. So how could she afford a long and very expensive defense? It looked like the kind of defense that a multi-million-dollar defendant would put on.
Let me tell you this. This woman is very, very lucky. There are certain friends and people out there that saw that she was just being stepped on and railroaded and decided to do something about it.
Who are these wonderful people?
I don't want to breach any confidences. I don't think that's my function here.
When the case was finally ended, the judge, a born and bred New Yorker named Joseph Bonaventure,
NRS 453.333 provides...
took 38 minutes to race through 71 pages of jury instruction, a long and complex and difficult case. In the end, the jury deliberated for 64 hours over 8 days and reached a verdict early last Friday evening. Before it was read, Rick Tabish looked confident, and Sandra Murphy was positively beaming for a minute.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Sandra Renee Murphy, guilty of murder of the first degree. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Richard Bennett Tabish, guilty of murder of the first degree.
As the verdicts were read, Murphy and Tabish maintained their composure. But just yesterday, as the jury was deciding what penalty to impose, Rick Tabish fought tears, and a sobbing Sandra Murphy took the stand to beg for mercy.
I want to say that I'm sorry to the Binion family, and I'm sorry for the day I walked out that door on September 17th and left him there alone. And I'm sorry to Ted for not being there when he needed me the most. And I'm sorry.
Convicted of first-degree murder, Sandra Murphy and Rick Tabish will get anywhere from 20 years to life in prison.